7 deadly signs you've activated your empath power. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt a sudden shift inside you where manipulation no longer pierces your peace and your intuition speaks louder than anyone's opinions? That's not coincidence. It's transformation. In today's video, we'll uncover the 7 profound signs that reveal you've activated your empathic power, the moment when sensitivity evolves into strength and awareness becomes your greatest shield. As you listen, think about which of these signs you've noticed in your own journey and share your experience in the comments below. Let's awaken your true empath nature together, right here on Spiritual Wisdom. 1. Shadow recognition. Shadow recognition marks the turning point of a spiritual awakening. When an empath stops being unconsciously pulled by other people's emotions and begins to see reality through the clear lens of awareness. You no longer mistake someone else's pain for your own or feel responsible for healing everyone around you. Instead, you begin to see emotional manipulation for what it truly is, a reflection of another person's unhealed shadow, not a judgment of your worth. This is the moment when emotional chaos turns into clarity, when reaction transforms into observation. You stand still inside your own energy, watching others' behavior with calm detachment, realizing that not every vibration deserves your response. At this stage of spirituality, your empathy evolves from a raw sensitivity into a refined perception. You begin to perceive human dynamics like a symphony. You hear every note of insecurity, control, or fear. Yet you no longer become part of the noise. You start noticing that people project their unresolved wounds onto you. The one who mocks your sensitivity is often terrified of their own emotions. The one who manipulates you is secretly afraid of being abandoned. Once you see these patterns clearly, their power over you dissolves. You no longer get caught in emotional webs because you've learned to see from a higher vantage point, one rooted in spiritual awakening and self-possession. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the integration of the unconscious into conscious wholeness. You begin to master the art of responding, not reacting. Even in the middle of emotional storms, you remain centered, untouched by the chaos around you. Your stillness is not coldness, it's power. You realize that neutrality is a form of strength when you refuse to be moved by manipulation. You transcend it. The drama of others no longer shakes you because your sense of identity no longer depends on their approval or affection. This is the birth of true freedom, the kind that cannot be taken from you. Each emotional trigger now becomes a sacred teacher. When someone's behavior stirs discomfort within you, you don't rush to defend yourself or retaliate. You pause and ask, what is this showing me about myself? That awareness transforms pain into wisdom. The more you practice this inner reflection, the clearer your perception becomes. You begin to see motives and intentions without judgment, to recognize fear behind anger, pain behind arrogance, and longing behind control. You no longer need to fix anyone. You simply witness their journey with compassion while protecting your own peace. This ability to observe without absorbing is the true hallmark of an awakened empath. It means your empathy has matured into spiritual wisdom. You love deeply, but you do not lose yourself in the process. You understand that real compassion does not mean allowing yourself to be drained. It means seeing through illusion with open eyes and an open heart. The shadow no longer frightens you because you've met it within yourself, and that encounter has made you whole. What once felt like a curse now becomes your greatest power. The power to see through darkness without losing your light. Are you ready to step into the deeper layers of your own soul and face your shadow with courage? If so, comment below. I embrace my shadow, to affirm your spiritual awakening and self-mastery. 2. Emotional differentiation. You begin to sense something powerful within you, the ability to feel deeply yet remain grounded. This is emotional differentiation, the sacred turning point in your spiritual development where empathy evolves into wisdom. You still sense others' emotions vividly, but you no longer drown in them. You can feel sadness in someone's words, the tension in a room, or the unspoken fear behind a smile. Yet deep inside, a voice whispers with clarity, "This is not mine." That quiet awareness changes everything. You no longer absorb every energy that surrounds you. Instead, you become a conscious observer of emotion. It's not coldness, it's mastery. You've learned that true spirituality isn't about merging with every feeling, but understanding where you end and where another begins. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That realization captures what this moment feels like. You are finally seeing what used to be hidden in the shadows of your empathy. You used to confuse compassion with responsibility, believing you had to carry others' pain to prove your love. But now, you understand that empathy without boundaries is self-abandonment. You can care without absorbing. You can listen without losing yourself. And you can love without sacrificing your peace. This is the quiet strength that comes from spiritual maturity. Your energy field becomes refined, like a crystal that lets light pass through without holding the darkness. You no longer take on other people's moods or chaos because you've learned to let emotions move through you, like wind through open space. In this awakened state, toxic people begin to lose their power over you. They sense the shift immediately because your energy no longer feeds their control. You don't react, you don't justify, and you don't internalize. You've grown into someone whose calm presence is stronger than any storm. What once overwhelmed you now feels transparent, almost weightless. This is how your spirituality deepens, not through withdrawal, but through clarity. You become like still water, reflecting the world without distortion. You no longer confuse connection with entanglement, nor love with emotional labor. You understand that healing others isn't your job. It's your vibration that does the teaching. This is the true power of emotional differentiation. Freedom. You can walk among chaos and remain centered. You can feel pain without losing peace. You can be kind without becoming drained. And in this state, empathy becomes your greatest strength, a sacred compass guiding you through life with awareness, serenity, and strength. You have not shut your heart. You have simply opened your eyes. This is what real spiritual development looks like: to feel everything, but be owned by nothing. If this message resonated with your heart and helped you understand your emotional depth on a spiritual level, comment below, "I honor my emotions," to affirm your growth on this empath awakening journey. 3. Intuitive accuracy. Your intuition begins to sharpen with almost supernatural precision. You no longer second-guess your feelings or explain them away as coincidence. Instead, you start to trust that deep, wordless knowing that rises within you when you meet someone or walk into a room. This is what Carl Jung called subconscious pattern recognition, becoming conscious awareness the moment when your inner vision begins to see what others can't. You sense truth beyond logic, motives behind smiles, and energy behind words. It's as if your spiritual senses have awakened, allowing you to read the emotional and energetic language of the world with perfect fluency. What once felt like confusion now feels like clarity, and what once felt like overwhelm now feels like divine intelligence guiding you. You notice how easily you can detect authenticity and deception. You can tell when someone's energy doesn't match their words, when a situation is about to shift, or when the atmosphere of a place carries hidden tension or peace. Jung believed that this level of awareness was the highest stage of human perception, where the unconscious mind no longer hides in the shadows, but becomes your most trusted ally. Until you make the unconscious conscious, he said, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you reach this point, fate stops controlling you because you finally see it forming in real time through your own perception. You begin to live with a kind of inner precision that feels almost prophetic, not because you can see the future, but because you can read the present moment so deeply that it unfolds before you with transparency. This intuitive clarity doesn't make you superior. It makes you more connected. Your empathy no longer drains you, it empowers you. You start to feel emotional currents without being swept away by them. You can sense pain in others, but remain centered in peace. You can walk into chaos and restore balance simply through the vibration of your awareness. This is what true spiritual wisdom feels like: calm, confident, and quietly powerful. Your intuition becomes like a compass that never fails, leading you not through logic, but through resonance. As Aristotle once said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And when this knowledge awakens, you stop depending on external signs and begin trusting the divine intelligence within you. You may still question it at first, the quiet nudges, the sudden insights, the gut feelings. But the more you honor them, the more they prove themselves right. Over time, doubt fades, replaced by a deep sense of alignment. You realize your intuition is not random. It's the language of your soul speaking through your higher mind. The more you listen, the more fluent you become in this sacred dialogue. And as you live from this place of inner certainty, life begins to move with you instead of against you. Everything starts to flow. Decisions become easier, relationships more authentic, and peace more natural. That is the moment you know your empathic power has fully awakened. When your intuition is no longer something you reach for, but something you live from every single day. 4. Energetic boundaries. You develop an invisible energetic boundary that acts like a living shield between your soul and the noise of the world. It's not a wall, but a fluid field of awareness that regulates every emotional exchange you encounter. You can now walk into a room full of chaos and remain centered, feel someone's pain without becoming it, and love deeply without losing yourself. This invisible power marks the beginning of a neurobiological and spiritual transformation. Your nervous system no longer absorbs energy blindly, but interprets it with wisdom. Where you once drowned in emotions, you now float above them with grace. As Carl Jung said, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration. And that is exactly what happens when your empathy matures into mastery. Your body, mind, and spirit learn to cooperate instead of collapse, responding to energy instead of reacting to it. Through spirituality and conscious awareness, you discover that true empathy isn't about carrying others' pain. It's about illuminating it. You become a mirror that reflects truth without distortion. Your energy field learns to sense frequencies before words are even spoken, allowing you to read the emotional weather of any situation while remaining internally calm. This is not imagination, but a real biological shift. Your brain and heart start to communicate through coherence rather than chaos. The waves of other people's emotions no longer hijack your peace because your vibration has stabilized at a higher frequency. You begin to experience compassion without depletion, and your empathy becomes your wisdom rather than your weakness. This stage of spiritual awakening is where you realize that energy boundaries are acts of love, not separation. They allow you to give freely without feeling empty. Your presence itself starts to influence others unconsciously. People feel safer, calmer, and more open when they are near you, not because you absorb their darkness, but because your light reminds them of their own. Your neutrality becomes medicine. You no longer get entangled in emotional drama because you understand that not every storm requires your ship to sail. You learn to observe rather than absorb, to witness rather than wither, and to stay connected while remaining sovereign. As this awareness deepens, you realize that your empathy has transformed into spiritual intelligence. You can feel the world more vividly than ever, yet remain rooted in inner stillness. Your aura becomes a silent teacher, communicating calm to those in chaos. You stop chasing people who drain you and instead attract those who match your frequency of peace. Emotional protection no longer comes from avoidance, but from alignment. When toxic energy approaches, it simply dissolves in the presence of your coherence. This is the true meaning of energetic evolution, a spiritual awakening that turns sensitivity into strength and presence into protection. You've moved beyond emotional survival into energetic mastery, where empathy is no longer your wound, but your weapon, guided by spiritual wisdom and anchored in divine balance. If you resonated with this message, take a moment to protect your own energy. Like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue exploring the power of energetic boundaries together. 5. Intuitive discernment. When your empath power begins to awaken, something profound happens within you. You develop what Carl Jung might describe as intuitive discernment, a sacred clarity that allows you to sense truth from illusion, sincerity from manipulation, long before words are even spoken. You no longer analyze endlessly or justify what your body already knows, because now your sensitivity has transformed into a spiritual compass that guides you through the unseen. In spirituality, this moment marks a key stage of spiritual development, the shift from emotional confusion to energetic precision. You begin to feel how authentic connection expands your energy like sunlight, spreading warmth across your skin, while manipulation compresses it, leaving you tense, heavy, or uneasy. You realize that the body never lies. When energy is genuine, your heart opens, your breathing slows, and you feel safe. But when it is deceptive, your chest tightens, your intuition whispers caution, and your spirit contracts. This new awareness changes everything about how you relate to others. You no longer chase validation or ignore your instincts to keep the peace. Instead, you start listening to the tone beneath the words, to the rhythm of someone's presence, to the frequency behind every smile. People who are honest make you feel seen without needing to perform. They respect your pace, your silence, your boundaries. But manipulators feel like noise. They flatter too quickly, demand too much, and grow frustrated when you no longer dance to their emotional tune. What used to confuse you now becomes clear because your empath power is no longer asleep. You're no longer trying to make sense of mixed signals. You can simply feel whether someone's energy nourishes your growth or drains your spirit. In this heightened state, your spirituality matures into discernment. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy and pain for passion. You understand that authentic love doesn't rush, it resonates. It gives you room to breathe, to exist, to expand. You learn to recognize that your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's refined perception, an energetic intelligence that most people never develop. As you move deeper into spiritual development, you trust this inner navigation system more than anyone's words or promises. You understand that energy doesn't lie, and by honoring it, you honor yourself. The lesson here is simple but transformative. Listen to your energy first, and explanations later. If something feels heavy, it's not aligned. If it feels open, it's true. Your body is a living instrument of wisdom, finely tuned by spirit to help you discern what belongs in your life. Use this awareness to create relationships that are transparent and nourishing, and have the courage to walk away from anything that compresses your soul. True spirituality is not about endless giving. It's about recognizing what expands you and what confines you. The moment you start honoring that difference, you step fully into your empath power, and your spiritual development becomes not just about awakening, but about mastering the art of living in truth. 6. Emotional independence. You no longer chase the approval of others or shape yourself to fit their expectations. The noise of judgment fades, and the praise that once inflated your ego now feels irrelevant. You move through life with quiet certainty, no longer tossed between validation and criticism. This is what Carl Jung called self-possession, a state of inner authority where you are guided not by the shifting moods of others, but by the still voice of your own soul. You have learned that emotional independence is not indifference, it's freedom. You can listen to someone's opinion without losing your peace. You can care deeply without clinging, and you can love without abandoning yourself. When Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are," he spoke of this very awakening the moment you stop performing for acceptance and start embodying your truth unapologetically. In this stage of spiritual wisdom, you begin to see that people's opinions are reflections of their inner world, not measures of your worth. What once hurt you, disapproval, misunderstanding, rejection, no longer has the same power because you've seen through it. You realize that no one can define your value but you. This shift marks the birth of true empathy, the ability to feel deeply without drowning in others' emotions. You start observing energy rather than absorbing it, sensing the hidden pain behind others' reactions while remaining grounded in your own peace. Your energy becomes sovereign, your emotions aligned, your presence steady. People may sense the change and even feel unsettled Because your calm exposes their chaos. Your confidence reflects their insecurity. But you no longer need to explain yourself or soften your light to make others comfortable. As your spiritual awakening deepens, your aura strengthens. You begin to walk with a silent power that cannot be taken or given. You realize that peace is not the absence of noise, it's the mastery of response. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That truth now lives within you. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer seek, you attract. You no longer follow, you align. Every time you choose inner calm over emotional chaos, you reinforce your spiritual maturity. Emotional independence, then, is not isolation, it's evolution. It is the sacred moment when you finally understand that no external force can shake the one who has found peace within. Did this message resonate with you? If so, comment, "I am emotionally free," below to affirm your strength and growth. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to help more souls awaken their spiritual wisdom. 7. Shadow integration. When you reach the stage of true spiritual awakening, you no longer fear your own darkness. You learn to walk through it with awareness. Shadow integration, as Carl Jung described, is the sacred process of facing and embracing the parts of yourself you once rejected. Your anger, your desire, your power, even your selfishness. You stop hiding behind perfection or kindness to earn approval and start realizing that wholeness requires owning every aspect of who you are. For years, you might have suppressed your emotions to keep peace, thinking that being an empath meant always being gentle, forgiving, and understanding. But suppressed emotions never disappear. They leak out through exhaustion, resentment, or projection. When you deny your anger, you attract those who are angry on your behalf. When you disown your desire, you find yourself envying those who boldly chase their dreams. And when you reject your power, you end up surrounded by people who try to control you. The moment you begin to turn inward and ask, "What part of me is this situation mirroring?" your transformation begins. This is the essence of spirituality, not floating above pain, but integrating it with love and consciousness. You allow your anger to teach you where your boundaries lie, your desire to show you what your soul truly values, your power to remind you that it is safe to act on your truth, and even your selfishness to whisper that self-care is not sin, but survival. As you embrace these aspects, your empathy becomes grounded rather than fragile. You no longer absorb others' chaos. You observe it with clarity. Manipulative people lose their influence because your energy is no longer built on guilt or the need for approval. You stop apologizing for having needs, for saying no, or for standing firm in your truth. Shadow integration turns sensitivity into strength. It makes your compassion clean, no longer mixed with people-pleasing or silent resentment. You begin to understand that spirituality is not about being endlessly good, but about being entirely real. You stop projecting your denied qualities onto others and instead see them as teachers guiding you back to yourself. When someone's confidence triggers you, you look within and ask where you have dimmed your own light. When someone's selfishness angers you, you notice how often you abandon your own needs. Through this mirror work, you expand your consciousness and recover the lost fragments of your soul. This is the meeting point of spirituality and psychology. the balance between divine awareness and human authenticity. Every time you allow yourself to feel deeply without judgment, you reclaim your wholeness. Every time you face your shadow with compassion, you become less reactive and more powerful. Over time, your presence changes. You attract relationships based on mutual respect and emotional maturity, because your energy no longer resonates with drama or manipulation. You can now hold space for others without losing yourself in their pain. You can empathize without absorbing, love without rescuing, and forgive without forgetting who you are. This is the sacred power of shadow integration, the moment when your light no longer denies your darkness, but illuminates it. In this state of spiritual awakening, you finally realize that your rejected parts were never enemies. They were guardians of your strength, waiting for you to come home. When you awaken your true empath power, you no longer absorb the world's chaos. You transmute it into wisdom, compassion, and strength. Remember, sensitivity is not your weakness. It's your divine instrument for spiritual growth and healing. As Carl Jung taught, what you make conscious no longer control you. If today's message helped you understand your spiritual awakening on a deeper level, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming explorations into the beautiful depth of your soul. 10 psychological rituals that will awaken your hidden power. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Have you ever met someone who isn't the richest, the most talented, or the most famous, yet their very presence feels magnetic, calm, clear, and grounded? That energy doesn't come from luck. It comes from inner work. Jung believed that true power isn't about controlling the outer world, but understanding the inner one. In this video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll explore 10 psychological rituals that awaken your hidden potential, not to make you better, but to make you truer. As you listen, I invite you to reflect on your own daily habits. Which of these practices could help you live with more presence, peace, and authenticity? Share your thoughts in the comments, because sometimes one conscious shift within can quietly transform your entire world. 1. Self-observation instead of auto-reaction. Most people live their entire lives unconsciously, reacting rather than choosing. They are caught in a loop of automatic behaviors, repeating the same emotional responses again and again, without realizing that every reaction drains their power. Carl Jung taught that true awareness begins the moment you observe yourself before you react. That tiny pause between what happens and how you respond is where your freedom lives. It's not just a moment, it's a portal. Within that silence, you awaken the power to choose understanding over anger, calm over chaos, and consciousness over compulsion. This is the first step of spiritual awakening, learning to witness rather than to react. When you start observing your emotions instead of being ruled by them, you begin to see their hidden patterns. You notice how quickly irritation rises, how easily you feel defensive, how your body tightens when you feel misunderstood. But instead of identifying with those emotions, you become the watcher, the one who sees without judging. That act alone shifts everything. Observation is not suppression. It's awareness infused with compassion. When you simply allow your emotions to exist Without resistance, they reveal their roots. Anger often hides pain. Fear often masks vulnerability. Sadness often signals a deeper truth you've been avoiding. Through gentle awareness, these emotions transform from enemies into teachers. Jung's great insight was that everything we refuse to see in ourselves becomes the unconscious force directing our lives. By observing our inner world, we bring light into those shadowed corners of the psyche. This is not easy. It demands courage, honesty, and patience. Yet each time you pause before reacting, you reclaim your energy from the unconscious. You stop feeding the patterns that keep you stuck. That pause, that single breath before you speak or act, is the moment your soul takes back control from the ego. And in that instant, you are no longer a prisoner of your emotions. You are their master. Self-observation is the daily ritual that strengthens spiritual wisdom. It is a practice of remembering that you are not your anger, not your fear, not your insecurity. You are the awareness behind them. This awareness doesn't seek to destroy emotions, but to understand them. When someone provokes you, the old self wants to strike back, to prove its worth. But the awakened self sees the situation for what it is, a mirror reflecting an unhealed wound. Instead of reacting, you breathe, you observe, you choose peace. Slowly, you realize that no one can truly disturb your inner harmony unless you give them permission. Each moment of awareness is an act of freedom. Every time you pause and witness rather than react, you expand your consciousness. Life becomes less about controlling external events and more about mastering your inner energy. This is where true spirituality begins, not in escaping the world, but in engaging with it consciously. To observe yourself without judgment is to walk the path of healing. It is to transform reaction into wisdom, emotion into energy, and confusion into clarity. That is how spiritual awakening unfolds quietly, moment by moment, within the sacred pause where consciousness is born. Have you ever truly practiced self-observation instead of reacting on autopilot? If you have, share your experience in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone's spiritual awakening. If not, comment, "I will begin observing myself," and take the first step toward unlocking your hidden power through spiritual wisdom. 2. Balancing, doing, and being. Society worships action, achievement, and productivity. But the truth is, your soul doesn't evolve through constant doing, it awakens through stillness. You've been taught that slowing down means falling behind. Yet in reality, silence is where your deepest form of spirituality and spiritual development begins. When you pause the endless motion and simply allow yourself to be, you reconnect with your intuition, that quiet inner compass that speaks softly beneath the noise of the world. The more you chase external validation, the further you drift from the sacred language of your soul. But when you surrender to stillness, your energy recalibrates, your emotions settle, and clarity rises like dawn after a long storm. In this sacred stillness, you begin to see that busyness is not strength, it's distraction. Constant movement clouds your intuition and scatters your energy, while silence gathers it. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." The moment you stop trying to control everything and simply observe, your awareness expands. You start to feel the subtle rhythm of your being, the divine pulse beneath your thoughts. It's in this quiet awareness that real transformation happens not through struggle, but through surrender. The soul doesn't need more noise. It needs your attention. And when you give it that attention, your inner world begins to harmonize, guiding your outer life with grace and precision. Silence is not emptiness, it's presence. It's the space where your consciousness and your soul meet and communicate. When you create moments of stillness, whether through mindful breathing, meditation, or sitting quietly in nature, you begin to bridge the gap between doing and being. You realize that doing without being is mechanical, but being without doing is divine alignment. From this balance, your actions become more intentional, flowing naturally from inner peace rather than external pressure. Stillness doesn't take you away from life, it roots you deeper in it. And in that depth, you discover your hidden power, the quiet, unwavering strength that doesn't shout but radiates. You no longer act out of fear or hurry. You move from calm awareness. This is the secret of all spiritual masters. They know that power is not in force, but in flow. The more you align with your inner silence, the more you realize that life is not something to be chased, it's something to be attuned to. Every moment of pause becomes an act of alignment, every breath a bridge between heaven and earth, between your human self and your higher consciousness. In learning to balance doing and being, you begin to live from the center of your soul, not the edge of your anxiety. You act, but your action is conscious. You rest, but your rest is purposeful. This is the art of spiritual development, where stillness becomes your teacher, silence becomes your healer, and being becomes your truest form of power. 3. Cultivating inner honesty. Stillness is not merely the absence of noise, it is the mirror of your soul, where everything you've been avoiding rises to the surface. Your fears, your insecurities, your hidden wounds. It is in those quiet spaces that the shadows you've long suppressed begin to speak. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." His words remind us that true growth doesn't come from pretending to be positive all the time, but from courageously facing the parts of ourselves we've kept buried. To cultivate inner honesty is to stand unflinchingly before your reflection and admit what you truly feel: jealousy, anger, pain, desire, and to do so without judgment. This is where healing begins, because the moment you acknowledge your truth, you stop fighting against yourself. The mind loves illusions. It loves to protect you with excuses, stories, and masks that help you fit into a world that demands perfection. But the cost of denial is authenticity. The cost of suppression is peace. Every time you ignore what you feel, your body remembers, your heart tightens, your energy dims. Honesty is not an act of weakness. It is the foundation of all spiritual wisdom. When you dare to see yourself clearly, you step out of the fog of self-deception and into the light of awareness. You no longer fear your darkness, because you understand that your darkness holds your greatest potential. Every shadow is a lesson disguised as pain, waiting for your acceptance to transform it into power. Jealousy reveals your unfulfilled longing. Fear shows you where faith is missing. Pain teaches you how deeply you can love. This is the alchemy of consciousness, turning the raw, heavy emotions of your humanity into the gold of understanding. Jung believed that wholeness is achieved not by rejecting parts of ourselves, but by integrating them. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel, and you cannot transform what you will not face. To look within is to uncover the architecture of your psyche, to meet the hidden child, the wounded lover, the silent warrior, and to embrace them all as sacred. This is not a journey of perfection, but of honesty, where every truth accepted becomes another step toward freedom. As you practice this ritual of self-honesty, you begin to see that the shadow is not your enemy, but your teacher. It reveals the blind spots in your mind and the hidden motives in your heart. It shows you why you react, why you fear, why you cling. And with every layer you uncover, you reclaim a fragment of your power. In that reclamation lies transformation. Inner honesty turns your pain into wisdom, your resistance into surrender, and your fear into fuel. When you can sit in silence with your truth and not flinch, when you can face your inner storms and still choose peace, you awaken something ancient and indestructible within you. That is the essence of Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, the understanding that to awaken your hidden power, you must first walk through your own darkness and make it conscious. For only then can the light truly belong to you. If this message resonated with you, declare it boldly in the comments. I choose inner honesty and spiritual growth. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights inspired by Carl Jung's timeless teachings. 4. Protecting your energetic boundaries. Not every heaviness you carry belongs to you. Much of what weighs on your spirit may be the energy of others' unspoken fears, expectations, and emotional residue that have quietly settled within your field. Carl Jung warned that when you become entangled in the energy of others, your own soul begins to dim. Protecting your energy does not mean building walls or isolating yourself from life. It means learning to stay centered in your truth, even as the world swirls around you. It means realizing that not everything you feel is yours to heal, and not every storm requires your participation. When you protect your energetic boundaries, you preserve your inner light so you can give from fullness, not depletion. You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding with awareness, grace, and power. Your energy is sacred. It is the essence of your vitality, intuition, and connection to the divine. Think of it as a flame, steady, radiant, and alive. Every time you allow negativity, guilt, or the emotions of others to infiltrate your space, that flame flickers. Jung believed that the soul loses its clarity when it identifies with everything around it. Protecting your energy, therefore, is an act of spiritual awakening. It is the process of reclaiming your essence from the noise of the collective. It's about remembering that your empathy is a gift, not a burden, and that you can be compassionate without being consumed. By observing what drains you and what nourishes you, you begin to master the subtle art of energetic discernment. You start to notice how certain people, conversations, or environments either raise your vibration or pull it down. And with each realization, you step deeper into spiritual wisdom, choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. Boundaries are not barriers. They are the architecture of your inner sanctuary. They allow your spirit to breathe freely and your intuition to flourish. Protecting your energy might mean saying no to what feels misaligned, spending more time in solitude, or grounding yourself before and after social interactions. These are not acts of selfishness. They are acts of reverence for your soul. Jung's teachings remind us that individuation, the journey of becoming your truest self, requires protecting your psychic integrity. You cannot awaken to your highest potential if you are constantly entangled in the energetic debris of others. Your task is to stay rooted in your center while the world moves around you, to let your light expand without letting it scatter. When you learn to protect your energy, you become a calm presence in a chaotic world. You stop absorbing emotions that aren't yours and start radiating a frequency that heals without effort. Others will feel your strength, not because you are hard to reach, but because your spirit is whole. This is the heart of spirituality, to live open yet grounded, compassionate yet self-contained, loving yet sovereign. Protecting your energy is not withdrawal from life. It is participation from a place of power. It is the quiet confidence that allows you to serve, love, and create without losing yourself in the process. Through spiritual awakening, you realize that the more you honor your boundaries, the brighter your light becomes, and that light, once preserved, becomes the force that transforms everything it touches. 5. Practicing psychological discipline. Discipline is not about control. It is about inner harmony and alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and actions. When these three forces move together, you stop fighting yourself and start flowing with life. Discipline is the art of transforming chaos into clarity, resistance into rhythm, and fear into focus. It's not a harsh restriction, but rather a sacred structure that allows your energy to move freely and purposefully. Through small, consistent actions, waking up when you said you would, keeping your word, finishing what you start, you build an unshakable trust within yourself. Every time you honor a promise you've made to your own soul, you strengthen the bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind, which is the essence of spiritual development. As Carl Jung taught, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Discipline is what makes that illumination possible. When you live without discipline, your mind becomes a battlefield, filled with unfinished intentions and scattered emotions. But once you learn to guide your energy with precision, your thoughts gain clarity, your emotions find calm, and your actions carry power. You begin to notice that discipline doesn't confine you. It liberates you. It allows you to direct your energy toward creation rather than conflict. You stop seeking instant pleasure and begin to cultivate lasting peace. Every act of self-discipline becomes a quiet declaration that you are no longer at the mercy of external chaos, but guided by internal order. This is how discipline becomes a form of spirituality, a devotion to the highest part of yourself. The more you practice, the more subtle shifts you'll notice. Confusion turns into focus. Hesitation becomes confidence, and procrastination transforms into purpose. You stop reacting to life and start responding with awareness. Emotional storms lose their grip on you because you've learned to pause, breathe, and observe instead of getting lost in them. Discipline teaches you to harness emotion instead of being ruled by it, to turn impulse into insight and desire into direction. It refines your consciousness like fire purifying gold, burning away what's false and revealing what's real. Through discipline, your mind stops being a restless wanderer and becomes a devoted servant to your higher calling. True freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from doing what aligns with your soul, even when it's difficult, each time you choose consistency over comfort, honesty over avoidance, and purpose over distraction, you awaken a deeper layer of strength. Discipline is how the ordinary becomes sacred, how a simple daily choice turns into spiritual evolution. It transforms repetition into ritual, effort into embodiment, and willpower into wisdom. The more you align your mind, heart, and actions, the more you experience inner peace, the quiet power that allows your consciousness to rise above fear. This is the hidden power within you, not to control, but to align, not to suppress, but to transcend. Through discipline, spirituality becomes practical, and spiritual development becomes your way of living. If this message resonates with you, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights on spiritual awakening and self-mastery. Comment below, "I choose discipline over distraction," and let's grow stronger together on this journey of inner power. 6. Acceptance of paradox. Real spiritual wisdom is born when you dare to embrace paradox, the union of light and darkness, of power and fragility, of love and fear. Carl Jung once said, "Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life." What he meant is that true understanding never comes from choosing one side of your nature while rejecting the other, but from learning to integrate both. When you deny your anger to appear peaceful, or suppress your sorrow to look strong, you split yourself in two. But when you begin to honor all parts of yourself, the calm and the chaos, the confidence and the insecure, you start to heal the silent war inside your soul. In doing so, you begin to feel the harmony that arises not from control, but from acceptance. You see, life itself is made of contradictions. There is no sunrise without night, no courage without fear, no transformation without pain. When you reject darkness, you also reject half of your strength, because even the shadow serves a sacred purpose. Jung believed that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So, when you dare to look into your fears without shame, you don't become weaker, you become whole. The more you allow both joy and sorrow to shape you, the more you begin to understand that every emotion is a thread in the tapestry of your soul. To live with spiritual wisdom means to walk gently between opposites, to cry and still be grateful, to fall and still rise, to doubt and still have faith. Wholeness is not about purity or perfection. It's about integration. Every time you allow your heart to break open, you make room for deeper light to enter. Every time you accept your contradictions, your energy becomes more aligned, balanced, and powerful. That is where your hidden strength lies, not in being one thing, but in being everything you truly are. 7. Soul work in the ordinary. The sacred hides in the rhythm of your daily life in brewing tea, walking, writing, listening. When you begin to see through the eyes of spirituality, you realize that spiritual awakening is not about reaching for something far beyond you, but about descending fully into the present moment. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." This truth reminds you that your hidden power does not awaken in rare moments of enlightenment, but in your willingness to meet the ordinary with divine attention. When you pour your tea slowly, feel its warmth, and watch the steam rise, you are practicing devotion without even knowing it. When you walk and feel the earth beneath your feet, each step becomes a silent prayer of connection. When you write, you are conversing with the unseen part of your soul. When you listen, you become the space where love itself can be heard. These simple moments, once overlooked, are in fact sacred rituals, bridges between your humanity and your divinity. Greatness is not born from extraordinary moments. It is born from doing small things with great love. As you cultivate mindful presence, life stops feeling like a race and begins to unfold as a living meditation. The act of washing your hands becomes a renewal of energy. Cooking becomes a ceremony of gratitude, and even breathing becomes an affirmation that you are one with the universe. The divine is not waiting in the distant heavens. It is breathing through every heartbeat, watching through your eyes, and moving through your touch. Every small act done with awareness transforms the ordinary into the miraculous. That is the essence of soul work, to meet each moment as sacred, to live as though the divine were present in every grain of sand, every drop of water, every second of silence. When you live this way, life itself becomes your temple. Each movement, each gesture, each word becomes a prayer whispered into eternity. You no longer need to chase enlightenment because awareness itself becomes your path. Every thought aligned with love purifies your energy. Every act performed consciously raises your vibration. And every moment of stillness reconnects you with your higher self. This is where true spiritual awakening begins, not in escape, but in embodiment. You start to realize that the universe was never apart from you. It was always speaking through you, waiting for you to listen. The magic of life is not hidden. It only reveals itself when you slow down enough to see. The sacred was never missing. It was only waiting for your eyes to open. And when they do, you understand that every breath, every sound, and every silence is a holy conversation between your soul and the divine. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on transforming everyday moments into sacred rituals of growth and awakening. 8. Listening to symbols and synchronicities. Life constantly communicates with you through dreams, symbols, and coincidences that seem too precise to be accidents. Carl Jung called this synchronicity a meaningful alignment between your inner and outer worlds. It is the universe's way of mirroring your state of consciousness and guiding your spiritual development. Every time a number repeats, a song plays at the right moment, or someone's words echo your private thoughts, it's as if life itself is speaking directly to your soul. These moments are not random. They are the whispers of divine order woven through ordinary events, nudging you toward deeper self-awareness. The symbols that appear in your path are not meant to confuse you, but to awaken you. They are a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious mind, inviting you to explore what lies beneath the surface of your everyday reality. When you start paying attention to these subtle signs, you awaken a new kind of perception, a language of the soul that cannot be translated through logic alone. Jung once said, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul. Through that door, your unconscious reveals what your conscious mind cannot yet see. A recurring dream, an image that won't leave your thoughts, or even an unexpected encounter might hold clues to your growth. Symbols often reflect your emotional landscape. Water can represent cleansing or renewal. Mountains can symbolize challenges that strengthen your spirit, and flight may express a deep desire for freedom. When you learn to interpret these symbols, you are no longer blind to the dialogue between your psyche and the universe. You begin to live consciously, seeing spirituality not as something distant or abstract, but as an ever-present conversation between your soul and existence itself. Listening to symbols requires sensitivity and trust. You must resist the urge to dismiss coincidences as meaningless. Instead, pause and ask, what is this trying to tell me? Repetition is one of the universe's favorite teachers. When a symbol appears again and again, it is calling for your attention. These are the moments when the veil between the conscious and unconscious becomes thin. You feel guided, connected, and supported by an invisible intelligence that transcends logic. Each event becomes a mirror reflecting a hidden part of yourself that longs to be understood. This process is the essence of spiritual development. It transforms random experiences into sacred messages, pain into wisdom, and confusion into awareness. As you continue to honor these synchronicities, life begins to reveal its pattern. Every experience, whether joyful or painful, carries meaning. Jung taught, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The key is to listen deeply, not with your ears, but with your awareness. When you learn to decode life symbols, you no longer feel like a victim of circumstance, but a co-creator in a divine pattern of evolution. Spirituality becomes an art of perception, a practice of seeing how every detail, every coincidence, and every dream is part of your unfolding story. The more you pay attention, the more the universe speaks, and you realize that life has always been guiding you. It's just that now, you finally understand its language. 9. Practicing conscious gratitude. Gratitude shifts your vibration from ego to soul. It is not about ignoring pain, but about honoring every part of your journey. When you practice conscious gratitude, you awaken what Carl Jung called the deeper dimension of the self, the part of you that sees meaning in both joy and sorrow. Gratitude is not the denial of darkness. It is the light that makes sense of it. It heals the nervous system, softens your perception, and reminds you that even the hardest moments carry hidden wisdom. Each thank you whisper is like striking a match in the dark, a small flame that gradually illuminates the vastness of your inner world. You begin to see that life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be meaningful. And gratitude helps you remember that. When you thank life, not for what is comfortable, but for what is real, you shift from resistance to acceptance. This simple act opens your heart and calms your mind, aligning your energy with peace instead of struggle. Gratitude turns chaos into clarity because it rewires the way you see yourself and the world. It transforms every wound into a teacher, every loss into a lesson, every delay into divine timing. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom teaches that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and gratitude is the daily ritual that gently guides you toward that becoming. When you appreciate even the challenges, you reclaim your power from the external world and return it to your soul, where real transformation happens. True gratitude is psychological alchemy. It dissolves the boundaries between pain and growth, between what you hoped for and what you received. It allows you to see that everything has served your awakening in one way or another. Gratitude is the art of saying, "Thank you for shaping me." even when life has not gone according to your plans. The more you embody this awareness, the more your energy expands beyond fear and enters harmony with the universe. It is not an act of forced positivity, but a deep recognition that your life is unfolding with purpose. Every breath becomes sacred, every experience becomes a teacher, and every thank you becomes a prayer that lifts you closer to your soul. Through the eyes of gratitude, existence stops being random. It becomes a dialogue between your spirit and the infinite. To affirm your awareness of life's blessings and your readiness to rise in higher consciousness, declare it with gratitude. Comment below. I am consciously grateful to anchor this vibration of appreciation within you and inspire others to walk the same path of spiritual awakening. 10. Reconnection with nature. Nature mirrors the hidden architecture of your soul, calm, balanced, and whole. When you walk among trees or stand before a vast ocean, something ancient inside you begins to stir, as if the earth itself is reminding you of who you truly are. Carl Jung believed that nature was not just scenery, but a living symbol of the self, the totality of your being, where your conscious and unconscious meet. In nature's silence, your mind softens, your breath deepens, and your fragmented thoughts begin to align. You feel the pulse of life moving through everything, the trees breathing with you, the wind carrying away your heaviness, the sunlight returning warmth to places inside you that had long gone cold. In spirituality, reconnecting with nature is not about escape. It's about remembrance. It's about remembering that you are not separate from life, but a part of its eternal rhythm. When you walk barefoot on the ground, you are touching the same earth that holds the memory of every living being. The river that flows teaches you trust. It never doubts its direction. The trees teach patience, silently growing toward the light without competition. The mountain teaches you stillness, reminding you that true strength does not need to move to prove its power. Every element of nature carries wisdom that words cannot express. And when you learn to listen, that wisdom begins to shape your inner world. Jung often spoke about the soul's longing for harmony, and nature offers this lesson effortlessly. The forest never rushes, yet everything within it thrives in divine timing. The rain falls without hesitation, cleansing what must be renewed. The soil receives decay and turns it into nourishment. When you allow yourself to be present in these cycles, you begin to see that your own healing follows the same pattern. Pain breaks you open. Time softens the edges. Renewal follows naturally, just as spring follows winter. This is the quiet miracle of spiritual awakening, to understand that nature's rhythm is your rhythm, and that every season of your life serves a sacred purpose. The modern world, however, makes forgetting easy. Surrounded by noise, artificial light, and endless distractions, the human psyche drifts away from its natural roots. Yet the soul aches for stillness, for simplicity, for the sound of the wind instead of the hum of machines. When you step into nature, you return to your original home, the one that exists beyond identity, beyond judgment, beyond striving. You are no longer the observer of life. You become life itself. In that sacred union, humility replaces pride, presence replaces anxiety, and gratitude replaces desire. The forest becomes your church, the sky your cathedral, and every breath a silent prayer. As you remember your place in this great living system, peace emerges naturally. You begin to sense that everything is connected, that every leaf and wave and breath participates in the same dance of existence. The more you align with this truth, the more you dissolve the illusion of separation that keeps humanity divided from the soul of the world. To reconnect with nature is to reconnect with your own divine essence, to rediscover that spirituality is not found in escaping the earth, but in embracing it completely. When you remember that you are nature, the boundaries between you and the universe fade, and what remains is wholeness, the quiet, steady knowing that you have always belonged. In the end, Carl Jung reminded us that true power doesn't come from the outer world. It is born from self-awareness, reflection, and daily inner work. These 10 psychological rituals are not just habits. They are doorways to awakening the hidden energy within you, transforming ordinary moments into opportunities for growth and self-mastery. When you practice them with intention, your life begins to shift from confusion to clarity, from fear to inner strength. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that guide you toward deeper spirituality and self-realization.